Alright, we're back where we left off. What I want to do is I want to trim down this body of this hat, the crown of it right there. Because I have the brim here and I just need to stick that brim out a little bit. So I'm just going to come in here, fishtail gouge, allow me to get quite a bit of wood poked out of there. I'll take some off the sides here. I'll take some off the front. I'm not gonna worry about the back. Like I said, you ain't gonna see that. People put that on the shelf or on their computer desk or whatever. You don't gotta worry about it too much. Don't make it too. It's gotta taper, be wider at the bottom than at the top, but don't make the bottom too thin. So we want to trim that down a little bit so we've got a little bit of a brim that way. If I hadn't said it before, appreciate you paying attention when you come along watching my videos. I enjoy making them because I've always been a teacher. Seems like I've been teaching for a long time, and it just the last 20 years or so, maybe a little less, I've been teaching carving. But I've taught public school, I've taught community ed school, night school, I've taught military classes, I've taught scouts, done a lot of things, so I enjoy doing it. Here we're going to round that brim off just a little bit. As you go along, you kind of get ideas of what you want to do when you get there. And we may round that up, we may tilt up the front, I don't know, but right now I'm looking at keeping it flat. Not too, kind of wanted to split on me, so I reversed it out there. See that piece right there that wants to split out? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But anyway, now I got that brim kind of sort of rounded a little bit. I'll take off a little bit more. We're sticking out here, so I'll go up under here on the front. I'm upside down, you see it. Front of the brim. This is some pretty good wood I got. I can get it from a guy out of Salt Lake City. Hear a lot of people talk about where do you get good wood? Well, you buy good wood where you find it, and if you find it, better buy as much as you can tote home. I mean, don't make the wife walk home, but if you can fit it in the car, get it. We've got a good supplier. We got a woodcraft in town. Sometimes they get some good wood too, and sometimes you can just order it, but I enjoy good wood. I don't enjoy bad wood. Bad wood is hard to fool with, and it's not worth playing around with. Life's too short to carve bad wood. I hate to say that, because I bought bad wood that seemed like it was okay, and then you get it home and it dries out a little bit, and it's not. I got some in the corner that I put a great big writing marker, I write B on it. People say, oh, is that for basswood? No, it's for bad wood. And I put it back there so I know it's a B for bases. So I'm just going to cut it and sand it and use it for bases. Trim that top of it, looks fairly hard, so we want to take the hard lines off of the hat. You want it to be soft and rounded. You don't want it to be hard edges on. At least on the hats I'm trying to make. I'll get up under here in just a little bit, but I'm just shaping that hat so that I can shape the face to the hat, and it'll make it a little bit better when I go to carve it. So you get an idea of how it looks right there, the way his hat is. So anyway, a lot of times I'll come in here and I just cut it in this way, and curl it down. Gives me a little bit of texture when I go to do that. This side is real narrow, and this up here is a little bit harder or wider, so we'll have to make sure we honor that and get it the way we want it to go. Again, I'm going to come in here, turn that knife. Get that hat going the way we want it to go. Cut off all these saw marks up here too. Even if you don't need to remove that wood, you need to get those saw marks off of there, because when it comes time to paint or stain, it'll give you fits on how much it'll soak in at any one time and how much it'll keep soaking in. And it adds to the facets of the hat that you want to do. So alright, I want to take a few more minutes. I'm going to redraw here a little bit. I don't know where my marker went. There it is. Redraw, there's the hat. Brim of the hat right there. We got the face coming up here and the ear. So what I'm going to do is I want to take the ear, and this is a triangle, so I'm going to take off this triangle right here on the edge of that. Okay. I don't want to go too far because I got to leave some wood here. I'm going to drill right in here to put some of these weights in there, because I like those weights. It keeps it from falling off the shelf. But having said that, I don't want to take off a lot back here. I'm going to take a V-tool, and it's going to go right behind that ear and take off a little bit of wood, so it looks like that ear will be sticking out just a little bit. I don't need to take off a lot, but I need to take off enough to give it 3 dimensions. I don't want it to be a flat ear just stuck on the side of the head. So that way when I come back here with the knife, I have the bottom of the ear, push a stop cut in there. Be careful with the ear, because if you cut off one real small ear, you got to make another real small one on the other side too. So got to kind of watch that. I'm going to switch to my smaller V. You got to kind of watch that, because you want your ears to be on the same level. You want your eyes to be on the same level. You want the wood to show that, and you want it to be the same shape. So granted, you get a boxer, somebody who's got a different ear, whatever, somebody done wrestling or whatever, but for the most part, you want those ears to kind of look sort of the same. Okay, up here at the top of the ear, I'm going to cut in that dead space right up there at the top of your ear where it fades back into the hat. It's going to give it a rough shape right now. We'll do the rest of it later. Just giving it some kind of shape there. Okay. Go V-tool right up in front of that ear. Now, if you're going to have a hair running over the ear, I didn't do that to any of mine. You want to leave that. You don't want to cut that groove in there. You want to leave that there. Mine isn't going to have that, so I'm going to come down here and just bevel that front of that hair, the front of that ear, so that I can get it in there and it looks like where it's supposed to go. So just adding some shape to that ear. Take off a triangle right there. 1 cut, 2 cuts, and a 3rd cut. Okay, I'll leave that ear alone for a little bit. Do it to the other one. Again, I didn't draw this ear over here before I drew this one, so I better be careful on how I do it. That's about the same. So here's the bottom. Look, on the back, you can go right here at the bottom of the ear and right here at the bottom of that ear, and it looks like they're about the same space. Okay, so that makes it a little bit easier. Then I can come back in here and do the same thing here. I want to cut off that triangle right there. Fishtail, alright, sorry. V-tool. And then I'm going to come back here and just go straight down in with that stop cut. Cut it off. Careful. You don't want to cut too much of it off. You'll have no place to put that weight for it, and your ear will be sticking out there looking goofy because they're two different sizes. Just be a little careful there. Okay, I'll cut that corner off right there. 1, 2, 3. Here's the hair coming here. Here's the sideburn right there. There's the mustache. And so we'll give it a little bit of cut right here. Not much, just enough to show a separation between the hair and the ear. A little bit of that front corner off. Take that chip, go deep into that hole because it's a negative space. Go in there and get that point of your knife in there and then cut it out of there. All that does is just separate the air where it's at to the body. And that little chip back here. And now we can trim that up because that is right there at the bottom of the ear, so we need to make sure we're following that line. Okay, so now let's give that face a little trim. He's a little bit wider than I want it to be. Start thinking about what your face is going to look like. So I can take this off. Here's my eyebrow. If I run my center line down here, here's the bridge of the nose. So I want to run down right here and give me a nose. Okay, fat, skinny, sticking way out, pointed, whatever. That's entirely up to you. And you got to decide what kind of cheekbones you want right there as well. So you get to make those choices. I usually come in here with a V-gouge or a soft V. I can do it with this. I usually come in here with a soft V because that way I don't have real harsh lines, but I can do it this way. Right up to the bridge of that nose and do the same thing over here. I can do it with a gouge. I can do it with this little gouge right here. I got this little stew-by gouge. I can do the same thing with that. It's a little more rounded and it looks a little bit softer. But all that is putting in that nose and leaving me room to put side cheekbones in there. Okay? So if you want them drooped way down here, draw those in. If you don't, put them way up here. So the nose, most of your nose is cartilage. In fact, about 1/3 of it out in the front of it is cartilage. Then you got cartilage over top of the bones of the nose. So you get to decide what you want to do. And so first, I'm going to take a little bit of these harsh lines off. I don't want them in there. So all I'm going to do is just trim that side down a little bit, so that it looks like it's not a square face sitting on a shelf. This is where I want it to be. I'm going to carve that up to the eye socket. Seen a lot of people how they do eye sockets. Everybody's got a different way. Normally I don't leave a flat plane right there, but I'm doing that on this one because that way it's easier to fit things in when I got that flat plane right there. If you haven't got it, pick up the CCA books. I got one on nose, one on mouth, and one on eyes. And I suspect if I was guessing, they might do the mouth next, or they might do the ears next year. But I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking about what they've done. Eyes and nose, I know is there. Mouth and ears, I don't know which one they did. Anyway, pick up a book that somebody's done that you like what they've done, and figure out how they've done it, and then go make it yours. Because everybody's got different eyes. You go to a restaurant, sit there and look at people while they're eating or you're eating, and watch how their eyes are. Everybody's got different eyes. Just one of those things to watch out for. You get stuck into one way of making eyes, And if they're not right, then you're stuck. And you gotta kind of throw all that out and start all over again. All right. So we turn sideways and we look like we've got a face coming out of this piece of wood. So at this point, you got to decide how you're going to do that. I usually take at this point, put in my side sockets, because that way I can figure out what that eye is going to look like. So both sides. I don't go all the way to the temple. I don't go all the way to the hair. I just put in, I'm basically just scratching it in so that I know where the eye socket is. And that way I can come back here and nibble things away. Extend them further out, bring them in, whatever you want to do. It's your choice on how you do that. Okay. Started working on the nose. I better keep going. My nose is not real wide and it's not real narrow, but it's a little off center. So I got to come back in here and clean that up. Take that. Let's do by gouge and go right up the side. That looks a little better in terms of that. Now what I want to do from here is take this a little bit of this over to the eye, over to the nose, sorry. A little bit more over here. Bring it up from the bottom. All I'm doing is trimming down these cheeks so I can put that nose exactly where I want it to go. I'm going to go a little bit deeper with that fishtail, with that V-tool again. Because this point right here, where the eye socket comes in, or the tear duct comes in, that's where you want, for the most part, for most eyes, that's where you want to get that real depth. So you come back up in here, and then if you decide you want a flat plane eye, leave yourself a flat plane all the way through across for that eye socket, and you can do all kinds of things. I can come back in here and scratch in a lot of eyebrows. I can scratch in some wrinkles all in there. So just have fun. Just enjoy it. And if it ain't fun, make it fun. Try to have a little bit of fun with it. Try to say, well, that one face didn't work out the way I was doing it, so let me do a little bit of research, look in the mirror a little bit, see if I can't find a goofy thing looking back at me, or find one. Starting to get that nose in there. Starting to get there. Okay. I'm going to take off these lines right here because they're going to throw me off when I start doing it, because I'm looking at this side and then I flip over to this side and it's like the lines aren't matching up. So I'm just going to shave off the top millimeter of this wood just so I can say where I want to go and draw. I draw with a little Sharpie ultra fine point, and sometimes that mark gets everywhere because you marked it and then cut some of it off, then you mark some more and cut some more off. So it's just a little bit hard sometimes to see where you're at, where you want to go. So that's a lot cleaner right there, so I can figure out how far over is that hairline going to be, the sideburn, and where is it going to come down here? What's it going to look like at the bottom of that cheek? So take some of those harsh lines off, take some of those lines that I drew off, give this more of a wedge look, because I should be looking at a wedge there, somewhere like there. I should be wedging it in, and right now this is pretty flat, so I want to come in here and wedge it, get my wedges going on, so that I can make that small kind of cheekbone. Do that over here. I'm still a little bit wide over here, but that's all right. I still got a lot of room over here to push that in. It's narrowing it down a little bit to get me where I want to go. Give it a little, take a little bit more, like I got some out over here. I want to take it out over here. Alrighty then. Okay, do the same thing over here where I took off those lines. Take off these lines here so I don't get I get a little bit awkward look to it when I don't take some of those lines off. A little bit off right there. Okay, take off that wedge at the nose where it meets the top of the mouth mound. Flick it out of there. Keep an eye on my time. Alright. Go up the bottom of that eye socket. Trim it out a little bit more, make it a little bit flat so that I can put some eyes in there. And I'm going to do a simple eye on this one. I'm going to come down here, flat eye socket in there. Okay, I like the way that looks. I'll trim the top of it off because I got some really sharp lines there that I don't necessarily want. But on a flat plane, that's okay. You're okay with doing that. But if I flatten a little bit more of it out, it gives me plenty of room to put an eyelid back in there. Okay, I don't like flat noses like this, so what I like to do is come up the side of it, just trim a little bit, making sure you know exactly where the nostrils are and where you're going to cut the upper part of the nostril, the nares part. One of the things I like to do is make them rounded down here. Sometimes I get carried away and I don't do it. And what I want to do is I'm going to come over here, right where that line is, lay it down and carve that. Come in here and carve that chip out there. So it rounds that edge just a little bit, gives me a place to put that area. And then from there, where I drew that and cut that in, then I'm going to curl it up to the eye socket. I don't want it to be too narrow here, and I don't want it to be too wide here, but I do want some taper. So I'm going to take that from that cut up into the eye socket. Both sides. Do it to one side like a math equation, you do it to the other. That way it keeps everything equal. Okay. Now, the way I've cut that in, I got some sharp marks here, so I want to make those softer a little bit, so I'm going to carve them back at an angle. Okay. Round it just a little bit more. And clean up all those fuzzies back in there. Now what I'm doing here, this carving that I'm doing, I call it a shelf sitter. It could be a bolo tie. You could make it, those of you that are scouters, you could make it as a bolo tie if you wanted to. Still a little bit flat on the front, so we're going to give it a little bit of shape to it. Just a rounded cut. Go in and then curve it. Turn that blade with you. And it gives it a little bit more flavor to it. So now I want to round these cheekbones just a little bit more. I don't want them sticking out way real high, but I want to round them. I don't want those hard lines on it. Well, I like the way he's turning out so far. I still got room to screw it up. Hope not. I don't need to be screwing up. It's not fun to screw up and have to throw it away. Wood ain't cheap, but it's hard to come by sometimes, so we don't want to be too crazy with what we're doing so that we can't find the wood to fix it. Okay, take a little bit off here just so I see where it's going to go. Both sides, because I've never seen a square mustache, so. Alrighty then. Let's draw in that bottom here. I'm gonna bring here the bottom of the. Maybe you can see better if I marked it with a pen. Here's this cheekbone right here. I want to bring that cheekbone out a little bit more. And just draw in the face profile. Now, just because I drew it in doesn't mean that's where it's going to be. I'm going to draw it in so it looks okay to me. It may not look okay when I really get around to it, but the way it looks so far, I think it looks pretty good. I could bring these cheekbones up a little bit more and out some, and then back in. And drawing them on there doesn't tell me a whole lot other than where I placed them just like that. But what's nice is if I go back in with a V-tool. Here's my smaller V-tool. I'm going to cut off the bottom of that cheekbone, round over to the nose, and then come up here to the sideburn. And if I only go out a little bit, I can go out more, but if I go out way wide, I can't come back in. So be real careful where you put that in. Okay, see how that looks right there? Got a lot of hair over here. A lot of room for hair, rather. Alright, we'll do the same thing over here. Come in to there. And then follow that line that I drew. Okay. Take your knife and follow that bottom outside part, and while you're doing this, make a decision whether you want the beard to be stuck out farther than the skin, or vice versa. Your choice. I'm taking off a little bit on the inside, just a sliver, and then what I'm going to do is go back here to my wider gouge, and if you need a wider one than what you got here, feel free to reach in your bag and grab another one. Nobody's going to tell you not to grab another tool. But I'm just following that eye socket over to where the hair is. So over to the temple mound, we call it, what they call it, the zygomatic arch, I think is what they call it. I haven't cut over there, so I got that there. And then what I'm going to do is come in here and give it a little bit of a jog. So right here, come back out a little bit, come back in, because that leaves that arch right there. See how it shapes that face on the outside right there? Just shimmy off these hard lines here. Now, I've seen a lot of shelf sitters. I've done a lot of them. Most of them look like characters out of a Tolkien novel, the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit or whatever, and I like those. But you can do a lot of these. I did a shelf sitter one time of a firefighter, for a firefighter. He enjoyed it, so it's nice that he had one to put on his desk there. but you can turn these into just anything you want with a slight modification to the plan. You get to do whatever you want to with that. So I'm going to start here with that other one. Start at the bottom of that eye socket, or bottom of that cheekbone. And again, follow that line that you cut in. If you don't go too deep, you can cut it. You can reshape it. But if you go deep, you're stuck with it, and it's okay. If you've done it right, you can always make it look okay. If any of you watching have ever helped me in my carving career, past, present, or wherever, I appreciate you taking the time to be patient with me when I was learning. I feel like I've learned quite a bit as a student, and I turn right around and give that back to my students as well as a teacher. I just enjoy it a whole lot. So appreciate you helping me out when I was first started carving 20-something years ago or more. And know that I've taken your advice, taken your ideas, and taken your guidance and passed it on to others, because that's what we all ought to be doing. We all ought to be helping each other out. So if you're not the one that's doing it, then encourage the ones that are. Big cheekbones, I could certainly trim them down. If he was certainly a hillbilly, he's running the hills, he's working off whatever little fat he might have had. But anyway, right up the side of the nose, take out that saw blade marks. Hope I'm not going too fast or not leaving room enough for you to see, but I'm just trying to give you some guidance along the way, so you watch what my hands are doing. No sleight of hand here, no tricks, no magic here. It's just a tool and you and me and the wood. Alrighty then. Let's work on that ear a little bit. I'm going to take that ear and I'm going to use a good sized gouge. And I'm just, what I'm going to do first. I want to give it a wedge. So it's an ear sticking out of the head. So I'm going to take a little bit of wedge off here, the front of the ear. And then I'll go back with that big gouge that I was going to go with. I use the gouge out first. So I go in and make the gouge, because if that's going to break off, then I got room to fix it. And then I'm going to take a little bit of stuff off the back, because it's not one shape. It's kind of like a question mark all together. It's not always, but for me, I see them and they always look like question marks to me. Deepen that gouge mark a little bit. Come in here with, I'm going to grab a small V tool so I can do that. And I'm going to add a fold up here in the cartilage. I want to bring that fold down around the outside, back side of the ear. Maybe I'll be able to see that very well. I'll give you some room there. And then I want to come in here with a smaller U-gouge. And that might be a little too big, and I don't know what size I got down there. There's a smaller one right here, another U-gouge. And I'm going to make that wind flap. Tragus, or whatever it's called. Make that in there. That didn't go in deep, did it? Then I'm going to make a cut up to the middle of that. Straight out from it, and make a cut down into that. So it gives me a cut right in there where that tragus is. Anyway, I'll use the back side of this big gouge to take a little bit of that cartilage off the back of the ear, and then cut a little sliver right there and right there. Again, these things like eyes, mouth, nose, ears, those are all personal. You gotta kind of come to your own way about it on how you do it. So I can't tell you every step of the way to do this. I can give you some guidance the way I do it, but essentially you just got to get in there and get after it and get it done. You gotta kind of carve them. What was it that Gerald Sears would say? You know, after you've done about 10,000 of these things, you kind of got an idea which way you're going, and that may be true. So I've done a lot of faces. I love doing them. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it the way somebody else does, just so I could learn another way. You know, so it's just one of those things that you gotta get in and do it. I can't tell you any other way, but the more you do it, the better you're gonna get. There's no doubt about it. You're gonna get better every single time. Where'd that little one go? There it is. Okay, so there's that tragus. Come down the top of the tragus, make a cut there. From the bottom of the tragus, make a cut there. And I'm going to stop right there except for a little bit back here. I think we're done. I'm kidding. We're not done. We still got a lot to do. Alright. V-tool right in front of that foot, right in that ear, so that we know where we're at. Trim a little bit under that hat, so we can tuck that ear in there. Right there, just one cut at the top, and one cut at the back. Just sets that ear in there and makes it look like it's not just stuck to glued to the head. Go over here and do the same thing. We're going to make a lateral cut, a top cut, and a side cut. And if we've done it right, we're good to go. Okay, we spent the bulk of our time on the face because that's what everybody's going to see and that's what you're going to see. So now what we're going to do, however you draw eyes, I like to start with a dot on one side and a dot on the other. Make sure they're roughly about the same width, the same level across, and then I'm going to go flat on the bottom. Straight line. You may find out that that's going way across that cheekbone, but that's okay. We're going to make a simple eye on a flat plane. I'm going to make these two marks right there on the front. I made those two marks right there. And I'm just going to bring it straight down to the outside. You may or may not meet the bottom eyelid, and if you don't, bring that bottom eyelid up just a little bit. And then when we got that, we're going to do an eyelid up here. We'll have to bring out some more wood out of there. Best do that now. So it makes it, this will give him a little bit surprised look, but not quite. So right on the top of that eye socket. Just give him that right there. That'll allow me to put a good sized eyelid in there and add more detail. Okay. All right. I'm gonna well, let's work on this eye first. I'm gonna put the tip of my tool right there in the corner of that eye. Didn't stay in there. Push it in and bring it out, and then lay it right on there at the bottom eyelid and just make a stop cut across that. Do the same thing here. I like to do them both at the same time. Bring it over. Okay, Make sure they're lined up, same level this way, same depth in there. And then I want to take that one cut right there and just go deep into that eye socket. I'll show you why later. But I want to, just on the upper part, I want to do that cut there and do that cut over here too. Okay. Now then, we take off, and it looks like this one over here is a little bit smaller than the other. So let's draw it bigger, slightly bigger, so that it kind of matches that one over there. All right. Take it off that bottom sliver from where we cut across the bottom of the eyelid. Do the same thing to the other side. Take off that bottom little sliver right there at the eyeball. I don't want to take off much, just want to take off a little bit. Now I'm going to do that corner. So I went in deep here and deep here. I'm going to go deep again, and I'm going to take off that corner in there and a sliver right there. Not sure you can see that very well, but that's where we were on that eye. Okay, do that here. Do that in that wrinkle and take that corner out. Alrighty then, it should be deep in there and deep in there, and let's see if it is. Is that deep? It sure looks like it. Okay, do the top eyelid. So you should have just one straight line from the top point down to the outside of the bottom point. Once you do that, you can either chip it off or cut it off. I usually just chip mine off, push that in there, flick it out of there, make sure those cuts match to make it easier on yourself, and then flick that out along the upper eyelid. You may have to go back in here and cut it a couple times, and that's okay. Depends on how nice your wood is. And then do that eye socket, that eyelid up here. Okay, creep up on my knife. I want to go from the outside to the end, so the outside of the eye. Main reason is I want to get that down in there and take that out. Didn't get it deep enough, so we'll cut it again. Come on. There we go. And then back in here where this eye socket is, inside of that, I really want to cut back in there pretty deep, because that gives an added wrinkle to what we're looking at. Do the same thing to the other side. You know, people say one side's always easier than the other, and they're probably right. But you know what? When you practice a lot, you get a whole lot better at being able to do what you want to do. I cannot stress practicing enough. I can't tell you how many people complain about not getting very good, but they only do this once or twice a week for an hour. And that's just one of those things where if you only golfed once a week for an hour, do you think your golfing is going to be Tiger Woods level? Probably not. Just saying. To do this, to get good at this, you have to really put the time in. And it's not just sitting here piddling and making chips. It's put in good time. You cannot get good without putting in some good practice and putting in some good stuff. Then you don't have to make a masterpiece every time you carve something. Don't think that every time you carve it's going to be, you're going to be able to sell it for a couple $100 or somebody's going to ooh and ah over it and want you to give it to them. That's not going to happen. Unfortunately, there's probably just as much wood in the throwaway bin as there is in the redo bin. Way it goes. That's just the way it is. Anyway, I'll give you time to do those eyes. I'll cut off the video right here until the next segment. Go back in here. Even if you're done carving, go back in here and clean up, because you got a lot of cleanup in there. No matter who you are, if you just take your time and get a little bit of cleanup in there, and we'll go ahead and stop this one and get to the next section on the video.